Hey guys, just here inside a Matrix. We've got a bit of an opportunity here just to showcase single beds. So not hugely popular, let's say, in our world, so we don't come across single beds all that often, but it's just good when we do have one to showcase that. So this one is a little bit of an older trailer, so probably not the best example, but again, being that they're old, that we don't see a huge volume of these coming through, I just thought it'd be a good idea just to showcase this for you. So Matrix hardtop. First thing I'm going to outline is windows don't majorly get impacted in your hardtop trailers, whereas if this format is done in a pop top, and that is any pop top, whether it's Quantums, Matrixes, the windows are going to change a lot. So that is always something I try to outline to people when they ask about single beds or outline that they want single beds, is that if you imagine this in a pop top, obviously your windows are going to be a lot lower, so therefore they do become a lot smaller and obviously raised, because the idea is, being that the mattresses in the single beds are going out to the wall, is we don't want you rolling into window frames or rolling into windows, so therefore obviously we're trying to get these windows at a point where they're not going to be an obstacle for you on an evening. So we can see in the hardtop, the way I've done this is to try and make it easy. I've stripped one of the mattresses off, or one of the beddings off, so you can just see the mattress and kind of see the width of it. You can see the area above where we kind of make up a bolster, which I'll touch on as well, and then you can see one when it is made up. So biggest thing that I'm going to outline straight away is it really does open up this trailer. So obviously I can walk between this area, I can use this area as a bit of a seating area. So for a lot of people that go to single beds, it may just be to open up room, especially when you put this format in let's say the Quantum that's a 14 foot. It really does make the trailer feel a lot bigger, being that you can access this area. It makes obviously beds easier to make, beds easier to get in and out of, because as you can see, we've got a false, we call it a false floor, but we've got to step up into this corridor area, and the idea of that is that it just means for a lot of people they can obviously come into this area, sit down, and then actually get themselves into bed. Whereas with the Queen, being that it is a fixed bed base, obviously it is, you've pretty much got to climb up into that bed, so it makes it a bit harder for some people. So again, there's a big appeal there for single beds with that. So while we're kind of touching on this, false floor will also open up storage. So where in a queen bed we would normally have a set of 5 drawers, where we'd have 3 longer drawers and then the 2 that we've got here. Obviously you kind of lose that middle channel that becomes the corridor, but in this false floor section we do open up storage compartments that actually are in that section. So ideal for things like shoes and smaller items that we can just tuck out of the way. They're not taking up room or taking up one of the drawers in the kitchen area then. So this is all going to be standard as part of that single beds. So we've got storage here, we've got another one of these a bit further back, so they are quite handy areas. So we'll try and get that camera in just so you can kind of see the volume of storage you've got in there, but you would definitely get a good few pairs of shoes and things like that in there. You will then see that we've got drawers between the beds. So these in depth, just so you can kind of get a gauge on them. They're not huge in length, but again, handy storage, being that it's in between the beds as well. So I suppose undergarments and things like that you can store in there. So in volume of storage, you would be slightly less with the single beds, but not a huge amount, being that obviously you've got the false floor sections and then you've got the 2 between the beds. So kind of what you're seeing in this area, bar the PowerPoints, which I'm going to touch on, is going to be that standard layout of single beds. Now coming with the mattresses, so the mattress is a standard length, but because of the shape of the head of the bed, obviously all our trailers are angled in kind of that peak at the front, which is really beneficial for towability and aerodynamics for that towing. So the way we do it is we fit our standard mattress in there in length, but then we make up what's called a bolster that'll take that top section. And the advantage of this, as you can kind of see here, is that pillow will sit over the top of that bolster, so it's really maximizing the length of this area, in that 150mm that's taken up with that bolster means that really we've just made the bed actually 150mm longer, because the pillow is going to push right into that head section, meaning we've maximized this length. So great little idea there, and great little design to obviously work with our design of the body. Your mattress will be a standard 8-inch mattress. They are custom made because they are a specific width. Obviously, being that we're a narrow body with your single beds, these are going to be a narrow mattress. So this ends up running out being 720mm wide. in your matrices. It's slightly different in other models, but you're roughly, in most of the trailers, you're going to be between 700 to 720 mil. The tandems are slightly different, so we'll kind of touch on them in a separate video, but in your single axles you're going to be between that kind of 700 mil or 720 mil. So that kind of touches on your mattresses. Now, one last thing I will touch on while I'm in here is this PowerPoint module. Now, this is an older trailer, so this isn't what it would be now in terms of the layout of PowerPoints, but just so you're aware, in any matrix, PowerPoints are going to be an option between the beds. So we class that as a PowerPoint module because it's actually made up separately and put on top of this area. So the way it would lay out now, being that we've got automatic switching between mains and inverter, would mean that we would have one set of power points instead of two that we can see here. So one set of power points, which would be a double point, and that would be between mains and inverter, which I've explained in other videos on how that works. But you'd have one set of power points. You would then have dual sockets for either side, so that would be USBs as well as a 12-volt SIG socket, which you can kind of see here. So this one's been tailored as double USBs. In our layout now, taking into account the auto switching, you would have one double USB and one 12-volt SIG socket for each side of the bed, with then your GPOs in the middle, but you would also get your night light switch. So this little switch will actually switch on the light in the corridor. So then if we do need to jump up during the night just to go to the toilet, that will illuminate that channel for us instead of obviously turning these lights on that are quite bright. Reading lights are going to be standard, or your stalk lights, in your hardtop regardless. So when we go to single beds, being that we are pushed fully against the wall, then these lights will then be central. So obviously we can just adjust these and move these to where they need to be. Last thing to touch on is with your single beds, you do have the option, if this is not in, well, I suppose that can be part of the equation, but you do have the option of getting what's called an infill board, where that would actually slot in. So if we look on here, you can see that there is a section that we've actually routed out of the bed base, and this allows us to put a board in where it can screw into, so we can see the nut inserts that have been put in there. There is an infill board that would actually go in, and it would marry up to this height, and then that would allow the mattresses to push together. The way we've designed the PowerPoint module is, if you can see, it's actually the same depth as them bolsters. So therefore, if you did want to go back to a queen while retaining PowerPoints for single beds, you could actually get your infill board, push the mattresses together, and then your pillars would sit over the top of this area, so it'd cover over the top of the PowerPoint module, but then you would have the use of a queen bed as well. So we don't tend to see many people go for the infill board, because obviously a lot of people, when they go for singles, have their reasoning and they don't really see the need to go back to a queen. But if for people that are thinking for resale, they want the best of both worlds, that infill board can be done on all single bed trailers, and therefore that would allow mattresses to come back together, and then obviously you've got yourself a queen bed again.